What is up, Karma Nation? Welcome here to Happy Friday. Good Friday, TGIF, it's whatever. It is the Friday before the CFP final, the championship game. We have Mr. Brad Thomas. We have the Bales S. Justin, as you see, those are Twitter handles. They are two of our top college football bet experts on the Bet Karma side, and of course, they've also dabble in college football DFS as well on the DFS Karma side. So I'm going to start things off by saying no matter what channel you're watching us on right now, whether it's YouTube, Twitch, I think we're on LinkedIn now too, Twitter, Periscope, Facebook, wherever you're seeing this right now, make sure you go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss any of the other future content where we simply will talk about a game, a big game like this one, maybe just a nice slate, or just simply giving all kinds of free bets on here. So we're going to start things off by talking about what they are already looking at, and if you guys have questions, if you've already been looking at the game, whether it's on DraftKings Sportsbook, Sugar House, or any of other partners like Bet Rivers, who we just partnered with in Indiana, throw those in the chat, and we'll get to them one at a time, and we'll just get both of their opinions on whatever you guys are looking at. So first things first, let's start off with the actual game spread. It opened at 3.5, and now, as of the second, on DraftKings Sportsbook anyway, it's 5.5. I think I've seen a few places go to 6. Bales, go ahead and... I mean, of course, the number one seed, they have the number one overall draft pick. But besides just the obvious, what do you think the biggest indications are from it going from 3.5 all the way up to 5.5?
I mean, public, honestly. It's LSU's the dominant team. Clemson shouldn't be here. I think most people know that. The reason that you say that is it opened at 3.5 at Circa. During the Clemson-Ohio State game, it was LSU minus 3.5 versus Clemson or Ohio State, and it moved to 5.5 prior to the game being over. People didn't care if they played Clemson or Ohio State. It was just moving because people were betting on LSU.
So since the game ended, there hasn't been much movement at all then?
I think some places moved to -6, but yeah, a lot of places held steady at 5.5.
So let's start things off with that actual line as is with LSU 5.5. Which way are you swaying for this one, Justin?
I like LSU. I know it's the fish move. I get it. Everyone's gonna. All the sharp guys are on Clemson. I understand. Realistically, on paper, they're very similar teams. For me, it's just LSU isn't really an on-paper team. They've dominated much better competition throughout the season. Their offense can score against absolutely anyone, whereas Clemson struggles with that. And, I mean, realistically, I don't see Clemson's defense stopping them completely. So they're going to have to score. And while I do think that Clemson will, they don't have the firepower to keep up with LSU at the moment. And I mean, it's just odd because when you look at it, before Sean Wade got ejected, Clemson hadn't scored. Then Trevor Lawrence had a ridiculous run. They set up some passes for Etienne and some screens for him that worked out well. Like, it was just an odd game. And on top of it, if you just take that fumble into account, Ohio State's probably in this game over Clemson. So I know that Clemson did beat Ohio State, who a lot of people thought was number one in the country, but it just seems like LSU is far and away the top team.
So something I just want to chime in on, one of the earlier comments you mentioned when I said, what's with the whole going from 3.5 to 5.5 and everything, you said, well, I think your first comment was, well, it's LSU. Don't you think that with how Dabo's been with Clemson over the past, 4 or 5 years now, that Clemson still has that pedigree of people who maybe have won tons of money on Clemson the past couple of years, of saying, like, I don't care who they're going up against. Trevor Lawrence hasn't lost a college football game since he started. So that has no effect on this one?
No, I mean, people like what they see recently. What they've seen this season is LSU destroy. What they've seen this season is Clemson play no one. I think they have, one ranked win against an overrated Virginia team. And then obviously they beat Ohio State, which we've already questioned. So, I mean, it's all recency bias to the point where Joe Burrow won Heisman. He's the man. People don't really care because Trevor Lawrence is more of the future, where Joe Burrow's now. And like, you can just see that by a lot of people talking about Burrow and thinking it's idiotic to take him 1 overall because of his age. Well, yeah, he's better because he's older and more mature at this point, but that has no effect on this game because he's still playing. Like, if Joe Burrow entered this game and he was 28 years old in his prime and they allowed him to play, you have to bet that he's playing. It doesn't matter whether he's older and a good NFL prospect like Lawrence is. It matters what's happening right now, and right now Joe Burrow is the best thing in college football.
So moving on, Brad, question for you, just to kind of segue off of what Brad's just sitting here like, why am I even here? So Brad, the question I was going to ask you is, I kind of a similar segue from what I was saying with Justin is comparing. So Justin was saying it's what's happening right now. We see LSU dominating. We see Clemson not really versing anybody. I mean, if you go back the past couple of years and look at Clemson's schedule, they're like kind of known for those cupcakes of the non-conference and whatnot. And so comparing, the last let's say back to Deshaun Watson years, where do you think this team, not even LSU related, just where do you think this Clemson team stacks up against like the last 3, 4, maybe 5 max seasons?
I think that outside of Clemson's loss to Syracuse at Syracuse, I think that it's obvious that this Clemson team's not as good. Their defensive front's not as good. I mean, linebacking core Isaiah Simmons is good, but it's just not as dominant as a defensive team. I know they're number 1 in points allowed per game, but you have to compare their schedule to the teams they're playing. 11 points per game allowed versus cupcakes or against a badly injured Wake Forest teams means absolutely nothing. But when you think about the competition they were playing in the last previous years, it's just a different team altogether. I said it, and I'll say it time again. At the first game of the season, when I was watching Clemson play, everyone was like, Clemson's offensive line is supposed to be worse. And they played phenomenal. But that's first game of the season. Everyone's fresh. Now you look at this Clemson team. Yeah, sure. Etienne is the difference maker. The offensive line's not as good. Their defensive front's not as good. And this might be you can make the argument that they played weaker opponents even before the years prior. So I do think they're a little bit worse, which it's a terrible statement to say because they're undefeated. They're beating teams handily. Like, it's not like they're a bad team at all. But God, it's going to pain me to say this LSU team is better than the last national championship Alabama team, and it will be proven this weekend. On Monday, excuse me.
I heard the Bales scoff when you mentioned the word undefeated, and that's the same scoff I remember when UCF went undefeated. I recognize that undefeated scoff.
No. It was just funny because I was thinking as he was saying that people watching this are probably like, they think that Clemson sucks, and that's not the case. Clemson's like legitimately one of the best teams in the nation. It's just they're not college football championship good, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, even look at the Ohio State game. We know that Higgins got hurt, but their receivers were not getting separation like I thought they would. And these are supposed to be an argument for the best receiving core in the country. I don't think so. They don't have that inside automatic target. Before the season, it was supposed to be Amari Rodgers, and sometimes he just disappears in games, even just like the last game.
So, Brad, since Bales is going to play the fish move and do the LSU spread at 5.5, I believe. Are you joining him on the fish boat, or are we going Clemson?
No, I'm going LSU as well. A couple of reasons I had beside that. Clemson, for everyone listening, Clemson, yes, number 1 team in defensive rating, number 1 team, and it gets the spread numbers. But what's really important about seeing LSU's defensive rate against the spread rating is their average margin of covering the spread, which is 7.5 points or somewhere around there. So I don't care that they didn't cover the spread 5 times. I think that this 5.5 is a reasonable game, and just put yourself in a better situation, right? I think that if you think LSU is the better team, why not take the 5.5? Why pray that it becomes a field goal game? Because if your heart of hearts thinks that LSU is going to win the game, I think they're going to win by 7 or more. Clemson just can't keep up with LSU. And what was really important to me was watching that Oklahoma game. I knew the over was going to hit. Everyone knew the over was going to hit, but I thought it'd be a little bit closer. And I thought offensively, Lincoln Riley, not Oklahoma, Lincoln Riley would be able to keep them in the game early on. But they were taken out of the game, and that just shows you how good this LSU team is. And ever since that, what game was that? The Mississippi game where they allowed what seemed like 1,000 rushing yards. They have buttoned up a little bit on their rush defense.
So before go ahead.
Just adding one more thing that I don't know. It seems to go overlooked a little bit in these type of bowl games and stuff. But this game's being played in the Superdome. It's in Louisiana. Yeah. It's a home game for LSU. It's not like the neutral site where there's going to be LSU fans and there's going to be Clemson fans. Like Louisiana is going to sell out, and this is just strictly a home game for LSU, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if the Dolphins made it to the Super Bowl this year, but that didn't happen. So
so close.
We were close. We were. So before we start talking about the game total, which is the next topic I want to go over, just a little segue here to talk about our partner, our main partner, our title sponsor, featured sponsor, whatever you want to call it, DraftKings Sportsbook. First off, if you do not have an account yet on betkarma.com, you are missing out. We've added so many things. Every week we're adding something new to the site. Betting trends, betting tools, betting tips, betting articles, betting chat, tons of things on there. So go to betkarma.com. It's a free site to create a free account, and you can utilize all of those trends and tools and those AI simulation models that we built in. Now, speaking of that, on top of the page, so as soon as you go to betkarma.com, you're going to see this banner, DraftKings for a very limited time, DraftKings Sportsbook. If you don't have an account yet, click that link and create a DraftKings Sportsbook account. They're literally giving $1,000 in a sign-up bonus. So click the link, look at all the details, do the deposit. This is if you're in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, I think New Hampshire now, New Jersey, and Indiana. So if you're in those states, click that link, get that $1,000 freebie dollars, and those are our sponsors for this podcast. Now, going with Justin here on the over, we have it at 69 points on DraftKings Sportsbook. I believe I don't have it pulled up right now, but I believe I looked at it earlier. That's relatively high for a national championship game. Which way you think that's? I'll just stop trying to make this sound like a fancy question. What are you looking at on the over for the 69?
Yeah, so it's tough. I want to bet over because I want to bet over in every game because you just love to see a shootout.
Yeah, no one wants to see it under.
Yeah, but I'm going to go under, and for a few reasons. And I mean, one of the main reasons is that this is the national championship game, so they're really not going to let it get out of hand where LSU just absolutely destroys and it's not close. I would be willing to bet that the refs kind of stop that from happening. So now you need to, you just have to assume, do you think Clemson's offense can then keep up with LSU, or are you banking on Clemson's defense kind of holding down LSU? And then someone tweeted out, I forget who, but it was the ref of this game absolutely loves calling holding. And when you put a team back 10 yards, it's just very difficult to gain the yards and basically set yourself up to score. So for me, I lean under. I know it sounds kind of stupid that you're thinking to yourself that the refs are probably going to have something to do with this game, but realistically, a national championship game probably isn't going to be like a 30-point game because they just won't let it happen because too many people would tune out. So I do believe that this probably goes under because I trust Clemson's defense more than I do their offense. And I mean, that's basically all that there is to it.
And then, Brad, same thing for you, man.
Oh, my God. I honestly will not bet this, but because at 70, you almost need perfect drives. You need a good amount of perfect drives to start the game, and you can put yourself in a hole really early. But I have to go with the over here. Couple of reasons. The only 2 times this season LSU was held under 36 points. That was against 2 run-based teams, which we have Mississippi State and Auburn. Also, both teams in neutral sites have winning records for the over on neutral sites, although it's home game LSU. I just think that, yeah, sure, Clemson has a number 1 offense, but both teams averaging over 45 points a game. Give me the over and let me root for the shootout. I just don't want to be in a situation where we have a fast-paced game or a couple big plays, and I'm sitting at one team with 38 points and the other team with 35 points, and the over just crashed, and I'm pissed.
Now, sticking with you, Brad, this next question here, for Clemson to win outright, what has to happen? Not of course, getting out. I want to say not like getting turnovers or anything like that, because that's kind of out of their control in a way. It's something where the offense of LSU has to play a little little sloppy, but something they can control. What does Clemson have to do to beat LSU in LSU territory?
A couple things. I don't want to say slow down LSU because that's stupid. They have to keep up with LSU and then make stops when they're there. So even if you notice the Oklahoma game and it's happened in the Alabama game, it happened in the Auburn game, and it happened in the Florida game, it'd be 3rd and 6, 3rd and 5, and Joe Burrow picks up with his legs or there's a slant pass. It happens every single game. If LSU can stop, that's where Simmons will be really big. If LSU can stop that, if Clemson can stop that, then LSU won't score as much. Now, I don't think this game is going to end around like a 28-24 game, similar to the Ohio State game. But if they can keep up with them, if they can score 35 points, if they can get to that total while keeping LSU off the field, I think that's their key to victory. But it's easier said than done. When you have a team that plays that style of offense, who is not afraid to throw over the middle of the field, picking up 3rd and 5 is pretty easy. So maybe big plays on first down, make them down in distance. So.
Now, Justin, you agree with that, or you think they have to do something else strategically to come home with the win?
Honestly, their best bet is just to play sound football. We had that huge stretch where Trevor Lawrence didn't throw any interceptions, and then he struggled a little bit more against Ohio State. They can't turn the ball over. If they give LSU basically any extra opportunities, it's pretty much done because they have too much firepower. Honestly, it sounds so bad to say it, but I think they need to slow the game down a little bit. I get what Brad's saying, but realistically, if this turns into a shootout, I don't think that Clemson is going to be able to keep up with LSU. So they kind of need to just limit possessions, and then they need to be super efficient on what they do. I think the big thing is Travis Etienne. If he can have a big game and they can more or less just not really ride him because Trevor Lawrence is so good, but if they can get the ball in his hands enough that they can eat the clock to the point where it keeps Burrow off the field a little bit, I think that's probably their best path to victory.
So now what I want to do is I want to pull up just some random bets that I'm seeing right now in the DraftKings Sportsbook app, and then you guys can kind of just give me a quick synopsis on what you think. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is typically when it comes to something that's, it's not a 50-50 thing, but it's first team to score. So of course that's a coin flip based on who gets the ball on offense. Now, Clemson is actually plus 105 with LSU minus 141. So do we have enough confidence in Clemson's offense that if they do get the ball first, based on how high-powered their offense is, that you would think they would, because it's just any score, so even if it's a field goal, don't you think they could push down the field if they get the ball first, where if you're getting better than even odds, even if it's a slim margin, that's something you would look at, or, well, not something you would actually bet on, but what is your thought on that, Brad?
It's worth the bet, but I was just thinking about, I actually took a quick gander at all of the props there, and I would actually put my money on LSU, because I think that if it comes down to a situation where it's midfield and Clemson has to make a decision on 6 yards, they're more likely to punt the ball as opposed to Coach O is going to go for it. He plays the game to win it, and he's not afraid of losing. On the other hand, Dabo knows that if he just keeps his team in it, they've been there before. Don't turn the ball over midfield. They have an opportunity. So I understand where the positive value is coming from, and I expect LSU to be, if they defer, I expect them to be ready for a quick 3 and out. They're gonna, whether they win the game or lose the game, Coach O, the man rips off his shirts and chugs Red Bulls.
Shotguns Red Bulls.
Yeah, shotgun, even crazier. He'll have his team ready to play some defense.
All right, Justin, here's one for you. Now, just back on the topic of Clemson's offense, of course, we're not going to stay on Clemson the whole time, but total points by Clemson right now is at 31.5 with even odds on the over. So even if you are on LSU to, of course, cover the spread of 5.5, do you think that Clemson, with their abilities and their offensive schemes and whatever you want to call it, has the ability to cover a 31.5 team total?
Do they have the ability? Sure. I would bet the under, though. Okay. It's really easy based on my other bets. I believe that 5.5 isn't large enough, so that already knocks Clemson's point total down if you move it anywhere past 5.5. And I also believe that the under is more likely to hit, which would knock their point total down once again. So realistically, if I think that LSU it should be a larger favorite and the under should happen, there's absolutely no way that Clemson would hit the over in that total.
And then this one, back to Brad. Team to obtain the most first downs. LSU's at minus 137. Clemson's at plus 112. Now, in terms of big playability, of course, if you're just the team that just does nothing but big plays, then you would have less first downs. So based on what you've seen from these two teams this season, with LSU at minus 137, do you think there's reason to go with the 112 on Clemson's side, or do you think that based on what you see happening here, that this is something that nobody should touch either way?
This is a tricky one. This is one I actually highlighted though. I wanted to dig into it a little bit. I do like LSU on here just based on the style of offense that they play. They're fun. When you're playing a lot, the majority of routes are combo routes with slants and slant goes. If he hits that first read, it's 8 yards. Then you run the ball or a little quick pass in the flats with Elair out there. So I like LSU there just because of the style of offense. And then you think about the big cannon arm that Trevor Lawrence has when they're pushing the ball down the field. Like just go back and look at a couple pass. You don't even need to look at the games, but look at the box scores. When you see the receivers with monster games, like 150 receiving yards, but they really only have 4 catches. I even look back to like the last game where majority of the receptions were like 20 plus. So it's just different play style and different quarterbacks. So I don't have a problem taking LSU here, but just don't I think people just going too much into the weeds with some of these prop bets that can get you in trouble by. I mean, LSU blows a team out, then that almost goes out of the water because they're making a lot of big plays or they have a lot of big plays on defense. Just kind of weird. So.
Gotcha. And then Justin, this last prop one for you. I believe earlier you mentioned Travis, the receiver, needs to have a big game or should have a big game. His over receiving yards right now is at 44.5.
Who's this for? Travis Etienne?
Yeah. 44.5.
44.5.
And it's even odds. Well,
That's...
minus 110, but you know what I mean.
I mean, I would have to assume under. Like, outside of Ohio State, has he even gone over 44.5 once this season? I think. Let me pull it up quick. Yeah, he did. He did against A&M. He had 52. Outside of that, so 2 out of 14 games this year, he's gone over that. I would take the under. I know he had the huge receiving day against Ohio State, which probably bumped this up because realistically, when so many people are betting on the spread and stuff, they just don't need to make the prop bets as accurate as they need to make the spread. And he's coming off 98 receiving yards. Even that was on 3 receptions. If he doesn't break a long one, he obviously doesn't get it. But yeah, I'll take the under. I don't see him getting more than like 4 catches max. And you're just assuming that he's breaking a long one against LSU if you think that he's going to hit the over here. I feel like there's so much more that could happen for him to go under than over.
And then I just
dude, that's a good one. Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
The last one I'm going to go over here. This is something that Bales and Ben on the NFL. They did a DFS Karma NFL live stream. If you guys didn't see that, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you're not on YouTube, go to just search it in the search bar. It is Karma Media Network. So if you subscribe to that, you get everything we stream on Bet Karma and DFS Karma sides. You get everything all wrapped into one. So make sure you subscribe to that. But I was mentioning the NFL divisional fantasy side of things on the DFS side. They were looking at the odds for Kyle on the 49ers of, not just first to score, but scoring in general, because Ben really thinks Kyle is going to be scoring a touchdown for the 49ers this weekend. So not talking about first touchdown or last touchdown, because that stuff can be pretty unpredictable, but just to score in general. I guess this is open floor for either of you two. Who is someone who, of course, is someone that's anybody. I don't know if you guys have the app pulled up right now, but I was going to say anybody who has a good odd bet. And for me, when I say good odd bet, I mean anything that's even odds or better in terms of payout to score a touchdown. So it's pretty much the people that are some above even odds. We have Clyde Edwards, Travis, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Justin Jefferson, Trevor Lawrence. Everybody else has plus or even odds or better. So of everybody on both teams, who is someone, just based on the matchup or based on who's covering who, do you think you would put money on betting for them to score in general, not first or last?
In general, I just a quick look at it, I'd have to take Justin Ross. I mean, he's probably the best receiver on the team. I know T. Higgins gets more targets, but overall the better receiver on Clemson. So that's a pretty solid one. And then I guess for LSU, I'd probably go Thaddeus Moss. That's solid at plus 225.
And then Justin, what do you think?
I don't have the app pulled up. Did you say Jamar Chase is plus odds?
No,
he's minus 105,
Justin
minus
Ross.
305.
No, Justin Ross is plus 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, no LSU receiver is really worth it. So you got to go with the tight end.
Well, just based on what Brad said, then I mean, if those normal guys, obviously that score every single game.
Yeah, everyone's taken out. I mean, the best odds you're going to get out of a receiver outside of Justin Ross is Justin Jefferson at minus 250. I also going to throw this in here. I put a bet down that Justin Jefferson scores the first touchdown because it's plus 650. I mean, why not?
Fair enough.
Yeah, I have no problem. I would just go Justin Ross then. Like if you're getting plus odds, and at this point, have they announced whether T. Higgins is playing or not? I would assume he's going to, but last I saw he was.
He's still questionable is what I saw today.
Yeah. So I mean, if T. Higgins is out too, they're just gonna throw Justin Ross the ball every single play.
Every play, yep.
All right, well, there's a bet to look at as well. So if you guys caught this live stream at any point besides the beginning, it is replayable no matter what platform you're watching this live stream on. First, make sure to subscribe it so you don't miss on any of the future live streams we do on it. But secondly, you can, as soon as this is over, you can watch from the beginning. You can fast forward, rewind, and go through different aspects. We hope you guys are in the green and you guys win those bets. I did want to leave off with one more thing. So out of all of the things we've been over, so the spread, the total, props, and everything, before we end the stream completely, both of you say quickly, what is your overall favorite bet of the entirety of that is the CFP final? What is your favorite thing that you have money on right now?
I'll start mine off. I even highlighted in red.
That sounds bad. Highlighting something in red sounds bad. Is the red for like don't put any more money on this? You've already put enough.
No, it's so because this is actually a good way to get in my brain is how I make all my prop bets. I put every single bet on a sheet of paper, and then I just go and do statistics through it. And then when red, that's like holy shit. Don't skip that. Don't skip over that. And this one caught my eye 3 times. Trevor Lawrence's rush total is 54.5, which he's only done like twice. And it's only that high because of last game. And most of the times he only runs the ball 2 or 3 times. And so you're expecting him to have a 30-plus run and then maybe 3 other times to get over 50 to go to 55 yards. I mean, think about it. This is a team who held Jalen Hurts to under 50 yards rushing. And I know he was pretty pass dominant in the second half, but that's just ridiculous for a guy who doesn't look to run first.
All right, so under 54.5. Trevor Lawrence rush yards. Justin, what do you got to end the stream?
Yeah, that's crazy. That is an elite under bet. I'm just going to stick with what I said before. Travis Etienne under, 44.5 receiving yards?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I'll stick on that. I mean, he just doesn't see a ton of targets. At most, he gets 4. He has to average over 11 yards per reception. I mean, it's not that he can't do it, and he can obviously just break a long one, but I mean, limited targets, and you're expecting him to do well with every single one of them.
All right, well, that wraps up for the CFP final. If you guys want to follow these guys on Twitter, we highly recommend it. They're always tweeting out some extra goodness. So underneath their faces, you see we have at Bales S. Justin, and for Mr. Brad Thomas, it's at Mr. Brad Thomas. Whenever he's not changing his Twitter name to like Silky Smooth or something like that. But
it's Big Red Bets now.
every week it's something new. But yeah, guys, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you create those free accounts on betkarma.com to get all the extra goodies there. And hopefully you guys are on the winning side of your bets, and we'll see you on our next stream. So until then, the deuces.